Well, they were the key primary races to watch. Now we know the political matchups heading into the general election in November. And what voters ultimately decide will impact our state and our nation for years to come. Former Florida Governor Charlie Crist wants his old job back.
I am so proud to learn the support for the Democratic nomination to be the next governor of the state of Florida.
And he'll get another shot after defeating Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried in the primary. Now incumbent Governor Ron DeSantis is ready, willing, and he feels able to hold on for another term in Tallahassee.
We are the citadel of freedom throughout the entire United States, and no place has that been stronger than right here in Miami.
Many, including Chris, believe that he's using Florida as a launch pad to the White House.
Guys, this is simple. Governor DeSantis only cares about the White House. He doesn't care about your house.
Florida led the way over the last few years. While so many governors and mayors were trying to lock people down, here in Florida, we lifted people up.
I stand before you tonight as the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate.
From the state capitol to Capitol Hill, Democratic Congresswoman Val Demings is getting her shot and unseating incumbent Republican Senator Marco Rubio this November.
My opponent is a congresswoman by the name of Val Demings. She's been there for 6 years, and she's voted with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time. 100%. I don't even think Nancy Pelosi's voted with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time.
We come looking forward. It's about holding America to its promise. The promise that every person, regardless of who they are, the color of their skin, how much money they might have in the bank, their sexual orientation, sexual identity, or religion, will have an opportunity to succeed in a country that we say is the greatest country in the world.
In the House, incumbent Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Sharpless McCormick will take on Republican challenger Drew Montez Clark for Broward's District 20 seat. In Miami-Dade Congressional District 27, Democratic voters chose State Senator Annette Taddeo over Miami City Commissioner Ken Russell to take on Republican incumbent Maria Elvira Salazar.
She's a formidable opponent. She's a leader in this community.
After what was a nasty race full of personal attacks and even lawsuits, State Senator Lauren Book attempts to extend an olive branch to challenger former Broward Commissioner Dr. Barbara Sharif after winning the primary and holding on to her seat in the state legislature.
I wish that we could have been able to work this out in a different way, but here we are, and I hope that we can work together in the future to continue to make Western Broward County Senate District 35 great and continue to do the work that we're doing to fight for our constituents every day.
In her concession speech, Dr. Sharif says that she doesn't consider this a loss and went on to call on voters to be sure to make their voices heard. With us this morning, we have Levi Williams, an attorney here in Florida, but also a Black Republican, one of the very few here in the state. Welcome to the show this morning, Levi.
Well, thank you, Joanne. Thank you.
You got it. Well, Tuesday's primaries, were there any surprises to you when you saw the results? Well, now that we know that former Governor Charlie Crist will take on incumbent Ron DeSantis for Florida governor, what are your thoughts about the matchup?
I think it's a good matchup. As you know, Joanne, I was a supporter of Charlie throughout his candidacy and his gubernatorial tenure. And the same here for DeSantis as well. I think the interesting thing, however, is the time lapse between Charlie leaving the mansion and now, as we all know, he has switched from Republican to independent and now to Democrat. And quite a few of his positions that were previously held as true as Republican is now more woke and certainly more leftist. So it's going to be an interesting battle. And Charlie is an incredible campaigner, incredible politician. But I think for DeSantis, who does not come across as a politician, his sincerity is probably what's going to carry him through that election.
Do you think that Governor DeSantis is focused more on the White House than he is running as a challenger of Chris. As Chris, his challenger, the congressman continues to state?
Well, let's just stop right there. We don't want Governor DeSantis to go anywhere. So, I feel uncomfortable talking about that, but I think.
Do you think he's focused on the White House? I mean, this is the claim that his challenger is making. This is
absolutely not. Absolutely not. As you see the governor going around the state, you see his presentations on issues. These are Florida issues. He's not making a run for the White House. He's not making a claim for the White House. He's not sitting back waiting for the White House.
Well, the race for U.S. Senate already heating up. It's already heated. So now that Congresswoman Val Demings will take on incumbent Marco Rubio, the stakes are even higher, as the outcome could determine the control of the Senate.
Well, Congresswoman Demings is definitely a known commodity here in Florida, as is Rubio. The problem for Demings, I'm going to tell you straightforward, it's kind of hard to sit on the side of defund the police and then argue your history, your record as a law enforcement officer. It's kind of hard to sit on the side where we saw Chad cities being set up, where we saw police cars being burnt, where we saw federal buildings being tagged and damaged, where we saw cops being accosted, where we saw guns being shot while cops sat on the side. It's kind of hard to take both positions. I think Rubio's position is much better for the voter because it's more consistent as far as law and order and as far as being consistently expecting people to act as adults and proper citizens. Demings is going to have some explaining to do.
But let's be clear now. Demings never said defund the police.
No, she
so when
never
you say
she never did. But
I'm sorry.
She probably never did, but she didn't argue against it either.
Well, she's come out and she said that she not only did she not say that, but she believes it's wrong, especially being a police officer. So when you say her side, are you talking about liberals within the Democratic Party? Or are you talking about the Democratic Party as a whole? Because as you know, many within the Democratic Party have said that they never believed in defunding the police. And there are several Congress women, men and women who have come out publicly and said that. So when you say their side, are you talking about the liberals within the party?
Well, that's an interesting way of saying it, Juan. Is there a party that doesn't have the liberals in it? Is there a Democrat Party that's not liberal? Because it's easy to take a position of saying, I never said it. It's harder when you are in the legislature and your job is to legislate for the individuals and your job is to fight, even if it's against your party, for what is right. So what I'm saying is, if all you did was give lip service and you didn't take action to protect your community, then you were on that side.
Well, let's talk about the real fast search of Mar-a-Lago. I want to know your thoughts on the recent search, the search warrant execution that happened.
As a lawyer, I guess I should say it was a proper search, as it were. Because the judge did sign off on it, an affidavit was entered and what have you. But as a person, as a citizen, as a person with rights in this country, I am extremely concerned because it's just a piece of paper. So anyone can write anything on an affidavit, put it in front of a judge, get it signed, and come and search your home. Okay. And whatever they find, they could use against you, depending on how that warrant is written. And so for us as Black men in America, no matter where you came from, if you weren't born here, the issue for your criminal attorney is something called the fruit of the illegal tree, okay, or the poisonous tree, as it were. So typically, if the law enforcement got something that they probably shouldn't have gotten, it cannot be used against you in court. But here we see a very wealthy white man who was president, and we see the laws of protection not working for him. I feel vulnerable right now sitting here, you know?
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you then. I want to ask you with some of the changes that have taken place in this in the state, with Florida's culture wars and the attack on teaching and talking about race. Do you ever feel conflicted as a Black Republican?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Joanne, as you may remember, starting in about 95 to 2006, myself, I worked with Chris Fertig, Mary Fertig, Darlene Linden, DC, on what was dubbed then the CCC case, Citizens Concerned About Our Children. And that case was about the discriminatory actions of the Broward County School Board against migrant and Black children, immigrant, migrant, and Black children in Broward County. And, you know, what we were fighting for, we didn't have a community, a broad community that was supportive of it. So when I look at CRT, when I look at the culture wars with education, yes, I'm conflicted because I'm like, where were you back then when we were fighting for the Black kids in Broward County that had to use 42, 50-year-old books, no computer, not even internet access, only LAN WAN? Where were you? But then I look at it and I say, you know, we as Black people in America, no matter where you came from, we have great opportunity today. So when you start telling me that I am more of a victim, I have less opportunity, when you start taking away my power to decide my future, it hurts.
My last question, is it a good time to be a Black Republican?
Is it a good time to be a Black Republican? Anytime, you know? I think every day is a good day to be a Black Republican, quite honestly. I don't necessarily vote strictly Republican, by the way, just in case some of your viewers think I do. I vote for the best person who's going to do the best job that will benefit me, my house, and my community. And yes, it's a good time because as a Black Republican, an objective Black Republican, I stand ready to always remind you there's another side, whether you want to hear it or not.
Levi Williams, thank you so much for your insight this morning. Always good to hear from you and to hear something that many people may not actually hear from each and every day, which is why we have this show, Voices, and that is from a Black Republican. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you and your family over there. Thank you for doing this.
Well, the primary is behind us. Next up, the general election come November. So if you want to vote, there's still time to register. For information about rules, restrictions, and who's still on the ballot, as well as key dates to remember, just log on to NBCnews.com/plan your vote.